Cardi B has never been one to hold her tongue, and this remained evident when it came to her vocal support for Kamala Harris during the 2024 presidential campaign. As a powerhouse in the music industry, Cardi has consistently used her platform to speak on matters of social justice, women's rights, and issues that directly affect her community. Her unapologetic approach to speaking her mind has garnered both admiration and backlash, but when it comes to her support of Harris, it's clear that Cardi was motivated by a belief in change and the importance of empowering women of color. In fact, Cardi's involvement in the campaign reached a peak during her speech at the Milwaukee rally, where she didn't just show support for Harris, she delivered a passionate and somewhat scathing critique of the Republican candidate Donald Trump. The speech, which became a hot topic on social media almost immediately after it was delivered, was a bold stand against the former president's policies and rhetoric. Cardi B didn't hold back, calling Trump a hustler, but not in the sense that one might expect from someone who's risen from the streets to stardom like Cardi herself. Instead, she painted a much darker picture, saying, "Donald Trump is a hustler who is trying to hustle women out of their rights and hustle Americans out of their money. He's selling more than watches and sneakers. He's selling bigotry, misogyny, division, chaos, and confusion." In a few short sentences, Cardi made her stance clear. Donald Trump, in her eyes, was someone who sought to profit from division and inequality, exploiting every opportunity to push forward agendas that she believed would harm the country's most vulnerable groups. The energy of the speech was raw and unapologetic, reflecting Cardi's frustration with what she perceived as the dangers of another 4 years under Trump's leadership. But as with most things in the public eye, Cardi's remarks didn't come without their critics. The backlash came swiftly, especially from fellow artists like Azealia Banks, who has never been one to shy away from controversy herself. Banks described Cardi's speech as eye-gougingly cringe and took aim at what she called Cardi's stupid Latina shtick, a comment that many found to be offensive and dismissive. For Banks, the issue seemed less about the substance of Cardi's words and more about the delivery and the authenticity of her political activism. Criticism from fellow celebrities is not uncommon, especially in a world where the public expects artists to be multifaceted and informed on a range of issues. However, Cardi's response to the criticisms was just as firm as her speech. She defended herself by saying, "I worked so hard, bro. I worked so hard on my speech." To her, the criticism was not about the merits of her message, but about the way she presented it. Cardi felt as though she had put genuine effort into supporting a cause she believed in, only to have that hard work dismissed or misunderstood by others. For many, the heart of the issue with Cardi's speech lies in her political inexperience and whether or not someone like her should be involved in the discourse around important political topics. In an age where celebrities have become influential figures in shaping public opinion, there's an ongoing debate about the role they should play in political campaigns. Cardi, like many others, is not a trained politician. She's a rapper, an entertainer, a cultural icon who has earned her voice through years of hard work and authenticity. Some feel that celebrities have a responsibility to be well-versed in political issues before speaking out, while others believe that it's precisely because of their massive platform and influence that they should feel empowered to speak, even if they're not always the most informed. And yet, despite the divisive nature of her speech and the backlash that followed, Cardi B remained steadfast in her support for Kamala Harris. Her backing of Harris was not simply a superficial endorsement. It reflected a deeper commitment to seeing women of color rise in politics and an understanding of how monumental Harris's candidacy was for women like Cardi, who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles and hopes. As someone who came from humble beginnings and worked her way up in an industry that often sidelines women, especially women of color, Cardi was always going to champion a candidate who represented change. In this, her admiration for Kamala Harris went beyond just political alignment, it was personal. However, despite Cardi's passionate support, the election results were not in Harris's favor. When the final votes were tallied, it became clear that Trump had won the electoral vote 292 to 224, a result that sent shockwaves through the political world, especially among those who had rallied behind Harris and hoped for a different outcome. It was a heartbreaking loss for many, and Cardi was not immune to the sting of disappointment. She had hoped for change, and though her support may have seemed like a small part of the larger movement, she had invested her energy into seeing Harris succeed. The news of Harris's defeat led to a wave of public disillusionment, and Cardi B was no exception. Yet, even in the face of this setback, Cardi took to social media to share a message of gratitude and appreciation for Harris. In a heartfelt post, she thanked the Democratic candidate for her hard work and for putting up a fight against all odds. Cardi acknowledged that while the outcome was not what they had hoped for, Harris had still managed to make history in her own right. Cardi's words were filled with admiration for the barriers Harris had broken, not just as a woman of color but as someone who had risen to the highest levels of political office. To Cardi, Harris was a symbol of resilience, a woman who had defied the odds and a leader who had shown the world that women, particularly women of color, could make a difference on the political stage. Cardi also took a moment to recognize the importance of Harris's campaign for women of color across the country, particularly her daughters. She expressed that Kamala's candidacy had shown her and women everywhere that anything is possible. For many young girls watching, seeing a woman like Kamala Harris run for president wasn't just about politics. It was about seeing someone who looked like them in a position of power, showing them that their dreams were valid. However, this message of gratitude and praise also brought about its own share of criticism. While Cardi had tried to be supportive and uplifting, many took to social media to tear her down. A recurring critique was that Cardi hadn't done enough research on Kamala Harris or that her support was misinformed. People questioned her understanding of Harris's political platform and the realities of the campaign. The debate quickly shifted to whether Cardi's involvement in the campaign had helped or hindered Harris's chances. Some argued that Cardi's influence was overstated, while others pointed to her sizable fan base and social media presence as potentially a source of positive energy. It was clear, however, that the relationship between celebrity culture and politics was being examined more than ever before. One of the more pointed comments came from a social media user who suggested, "There's a long list of reasons why she lost, and you're one of them clapping hands." This comment echoed the frustration of many who felt that Cardi's support, though well-intentioned, may have ultimately contributed to the failure of the campaign. It's an argument that taps into the broader question of whether celebrities should weigh in on politics at all. Critics argue that their influence can be detrimental if their understanding of the issues is shallow, or if their support is seen as a form of celebrity branding rather than genuine advocacy. The heart of this criticism is the belief that political engagement requires more than just a public statement. It requires a deep, informed understanding of the policies and implications of those policies, something that many felt Cardi B was lacking. Still, Cardi defended herself fiercely, reiterating her commitment to her beliefs and her effort to support Kamala Harris, regardless of the outcome.